India and Suriname might be geographically far away, but they are linked in a lot of ways, especially through a large Indian diaspora, including, of course, the president of Suriname, who is with us to talk about a lot of things, including his Indian heritage. So welcome to WION and welcome to India. You started your India visit from Indore, where you spent substantial portion of the visit, and the focus was the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Convention. So how do you see this diaspora meet? And you are one of the prominent members of the Indian diaspora. How do you see the growth in India?
Well, I think that the event which was organized in Indore, Madhya Pradesh, is very important. But this one was more important. Why? Because it came after so many years where the entire world had suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, I was awarded last year with the Pravasi Bharatiya Award, but I couldn't come, and we done it virtually. So this meeting was the first time where all the Indian descendants, the diaspora community of the world came together. And it was also a meeting where India is also taking another role in the global world. So from that perspective, from that angle, it was also very important to have that meeting, to have meetings with the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Modi, and the President of India. And sure, we had meetings with the business community. So I think the strength of the diaspora is that we are present on earth, all of them rooted here in India and spread out in all the parts of the world. But we, as you mentioned, we are far away in terms of distance, but we are very close as regards our connections with our heart, with our mind, with our soul. And those are the ingredients. Those are the samagri, what we need to develop further our relation in all areas of cooperation. And that we have done.
And you continue to celebrate your Indian origin. We saw you taking oath in Sanskrit. So where did this idea came that you need to take oath in Sanskrit? You are the only world leader who have done so, taking an oath in Sanskrit.
Well, in Suriname, you have several choices to take an oath. You can do it with a promise. You can do it with an oath. And based on your religion, you can make the choice. I had made the choice to do it with the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit. And most of the people with the Indian religion are doing in a similar way. And for me as president was also a good opportunity to express that with your election as president, that you need God to protect you, to guide you, to give you the wisdom to serve the community, to serve the people. And that was a good opportunity to make that arrangement with our Almighty God.
And the other big connect has been the language aspect as well. Surinamese Hindi is something that is widely spoken, and you speak Hindi also fluently, and Bhojpuri as well. So what's this language connect, and if you can speak few words in Hindi and Bhojpuri as well?
जरूर जैसे आप लोग जानता है तो सूरीनाम देश में काफ़ी हिंदुस्तानी रहता है जो उसके पूर्वगत इंडिया से आता है। सो सूरीनाम में जो हम लोग वहाँ रहता है, हम लोग अपन संस्कृति जो है, हम लोग के जो अभी भाषा है, जो हम लोग के विश्वास भी हैं, वो उस चीज़ अब आज तक हम लोग अपन हृदय में पकड़ती हैं। और हिंदी ढेर लोग बात ही करते हैं, लेकिन हिंदी के बगल में अभी सूरीनामी हिंदी अभी हम लोग कुछ बात ही करता है। और जैसे आप लोग जानते हैं तो सूरीनाम एगो diverse country है. We have many ethnical group, many religious group, many cultural group. And then we have also the fusion of all these cultural activities, and that has been expressed in our cuisine. And that is very delicious, and it's well known in the world, the Surinamese cuisine. So with the presence of the Indian diaspora in Suriname, we have also contributed to a more diverse culture, but also contributed to the creation of a Surinamese culture. But very important is our pehchan, our identity. When our grandfathers and mothers came, कौन ची लेके वो सब आया सुरिनाम में, with small basket, उसमें था धर्म, उसमें था थागत, उसमें था विश्वास, उसमें था एगो नया अमृत खोजने के लिए, एगो नया भविष्य बनाने के लिए, उसका लड़कन के लिए. And that is where we are benefiting from. Not forgetting, 150 years ago they came as an indentured labor, suffered, sacrificed, but for a good future for their children. And that's why we have to respect them. That's why we need to celebrate 150 years. And I've extended invitations to the Prime Minister, to the President, but also to the Chief Ministers of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, and also the community. And hopefully that you can come out to Suriname to celebrate this very important event with us. And in the same period, we'll celebrate the 170 years of arrivals of Chinese in Suriname, and the 160 years of the abandoning of the slavery period. Because of the end of the slavery period, we could come there. So we need to celebrate it jointly with all the other groups, and there are many groups united, as we say, united in diversity, and that is what we need.
When we talk about the Indian diaspora, we have seen increasingly there are world leaders who are Indian origin, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in South America, and you're one of the prominent leaders. So how do you see that identity, a world leader of an Indian origin, and a list that is increasingly becoming longer and longer?
I think the strength is our history, it's our parampara, it's our tradition. And it's also the way that we have been educated historically. It's also the way we are looking at the world, which has been expressed also by the Prime Minister Modi, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that the entire world is one family, and that everything is interconnected, and that you have been sent by our Bhagwan, our Paramatma, our Almighty God on earth to serve. To serve who? To serve God. To create better community. To serve the community. To create a better life for everyone. And therefore you have to work hard. That is what my parents had taught to me. Work hard, do your best, and God will do the rest. So that's the principle. I think that most of the Indian leaders are still using in performing their duty by praying every day and by asking God the wisdom, the knowledge, to give them the capacity to serve the community and to work hard to build a good karma, अच्छे कर्म बनाने के लिए ना, उस कारण से मोई हम लोग सबको ये धरती पे आया.
Let's talk about your meetings here. You met the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Madhya Pradesh, and the Indian readout talked about the focus on many things, whether it's cooperation in security or other areas. If you can talk about this meeting, what can we look forward when it comes to this relationship and your meeting which happened with the Prime Minister?
I think very important at the meeting was the gathering of so many knowledgeable Indians with expertise in several areas. I think all areas. Those were present there, in the private sector, in the government sector, the public sector, but also in the NGO sector. And the first thing for such an event is to create that network system. You don't have to invest in time for negotiation. You don't have to invest in taking away barriers. You don't have to invest in creating confidence. You don't have to invest in making each other comfortable. No, those things are existing already when you gather there from all the part. With that presence of the Indian diaspora, the only thing you need to do is go to the next step and make arrangement on all the areas of cooperation. We have done that on the public level, the government level, with the Prime Minister, and the issues were quite clear. First is that we are entering a new time period. As Prime Minister Modi announced that we are entering the Amrit Kaal. So from the January this year, it's a good start. And for our bilateral relation, it means that we're bringing our cooperation to a higher level, the level of leadership. The Prime Minister on this side of India, the President of Suriname on the other side, united in a platform of cooperation, and under the platform of cooperation, all the sectors of cooperation, coordinated by ministers, jointly with the private sector, that will be a new type of cooperation. Secondly, is to expand the areas of cooperation. Historically, yes, we do have a historical relation with India in terms of culture, in terms of business doing, but now we need to go another level. And I'll tell you why. Firstly, India is taking the leadership of the G20, all the powerful countries. And nowadays in the world, we need leadership who can bring a new order of peace, understanding, solidarity, and that is what Prime Minister Modi is expressing. With that, the countries which voices were not heard yet, those voices will be represented by the leadership of India in the G20. So that means that we have to take away all the barriers of cooperation, all the barriers, remove all the barriers and obstacles in doing business. And for our countries, we agree that there will be more cooperation and strong cooperation in the area of defense, IT, health, Ayurveda, but also setting up facilities in my country to function as a hub for the Caribbean region and the South American region. And that can be done through connectivity by air. That can be done by regional center in medicine, so that everyone can get affordable medicine, which is very expensive now. So those are the areas we have discussed.
So you talked about defense. What kind of cooperation you're looking at when it comes to defense from India? India has its own project, the Make in India Defense.
Well, I don't know if you know, but in the past we had cooperation already, and there are still 3 choppers flying in our army, Suriname National Army, with chopper of India. And what we need now is to expand that, because the defense force need more facilities, more equipment. But I think most important thing, and that was my message also, to get support from India to strengthen the capacity of an army, to make it a professional army, an army with integrity, an army with dedication, an army which can defend not only the country's sovereignty, but an army which can serve in the community and to support the community. And I think there is where India, if you look the entire history of India, that India is very strong on that, bringing such a professionalism.
You requested for any equipments like the choppers?
Well, yes, it was a request, but also we asked for technical assistance. But meanwhile, while we're talking with governmental authorities, we are talking also with the private sector. Meanwhile, I had 2 meetings already with private companies who are in charge of producing defense equipment and material. So, yes, there are a lot of opportunities, but most important issue what we needed to solve during my stay over here is namely that our country is at this moment engaged with the IMF program. And that means that we have to reform our economy. We have a very high debt, and that debt should be restructured with all the creditors, the international creditors, the commercial creditors, but also the bilateral creditors. So India was one of the bilateral creditors where we need to reach that agreement.
But I think the Indians have agreed to it.
Yes, that was the result. That's the most important result. I'll bring back home that I'm coming back from India and that we reach agreement on the debt restructuring with India. That means that all the money for technical assistance, all the money from the credit lines which were blocked temporarily, that those money can be released now, which can be used for implementing program and projects which the community will benefit. So that is the most important result what I have achieved over here.
How do you see this action by the Indian side agreeing for a debt restructure at a time when debt has been a major problem globally?
I think it was more the motivation, more also the commitment, more also the solidarity. That when I was talking with the Prime Minister, he listened. That while all the countries in the world are suffering from the COVID-19, post-COVID-19, while all the countries in the world are suffering from the impact of the Ukraine-Russian war, and that's impacting the entire world, also my country and also your country, we were impacted with those impacts in a time of financial crisis, in a time of debt crisis, in a time where anyhow the crisis had reached such a level that it was very difficult for us as country, a small nation, to absorb more. And that was our message, that yes, we are a country, and it's a new government, a new administration under my leadership, and I will pay every penny to all my creditors. I will pay any interest, what I have to pay. The only thing I need is some breathing air, some space, and that I get now. That with that space, I can use my budget now to serve my community, to get a better life, and to bring some relief. And that at another momentum, when I'll be in a better position with my financial position, that I'll pay back all the credits. I'm taking this opportunity to express also my sincere thanks to the Indian government for resolving this issue on debt restructuring between Suriname and India.
You talked about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Everyone is discussing that. What's your country's view about the conflict and how it has been impacting your country? Briefly, if you could talk about that.
Yes, it is impacting the entire world, but it's affecting more the small nations, which are suffering already with a lot of other crises like my country. And the impact is in the area of the increasing food prices, the increasing cost of the entire supply chain, the increase of gas and oil prices. And that is putting a lot of burden on my administration because you cannot let this impact will come directly to the people. You need to come with some protective measures, and we came with that with a social program, with a social safety net program. We are subsidizing a lot of stuff already, and now this month we'll transform our subsidy strategy towards the individuals, more subject subsidy. Yes, if that war shouldn't be there with a negative impact, we could use that budget for developing the country by designing programs, implementing programs. But now we need that money to protect our community so that they will not further suffer from the impact of this Ukraine war.
One of the key impacts of the Ukraine war is that the multilateral order has been seen missing. The UN has been seen missing. What would you like to see when it comes to the UN reforms? India has been keen to become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. What's your view on India's bid?
Well, I think that the Ukraine war, but also many other serious incidents and conflict in the world, had asked attention for the entire world to look at the United Nations organization, to look at also the effectiveness of the United Nations organization. I think we all agree that there should be reform with the United Nations organization and system and procedure. There should be more effectiveness, and there should be more a power policy, shared-based approach. The power should not only be in the hand of a small group of countries. The power, all the countries do have a voice. So you need to include all the countries. You need to include all regions. You need to include all aspects of world policy. And you need a comprehensive strategy towards the entire world with dedication, with commitment. But also when situations are not getting really under control, that United Nations should get more mandate. And when we were called by the Indian government that India is interested in that position in the Security Council, we say yes, Suriname will support India, because we saw the track record of India. We saw the history of India. But moreover, we see the leadership now in India of Prime Minister Modi. And I sure believe that he can play a very important role. And maybe he can make a difference in the entire security in the world.
India is taking a lead, essentially being the voice of the Global South as well. The summit, the Voice of the Global South Summit is also happening, key focus of India on that, and invited many countries. How do you see India taking this lead when it comes to this kind of summit?
Well, this is again one of the expression of leadership of India in the G20, that you're taking responsibility, and from that capacity, you should bring world together, but you should bring also regions together, and you should create new markets, you should create new opportunities, you should create more prosperity. And we saw it during the COVID-19 pandemic, where my country was presenting its order to purchase COVID-19 vaccine. We are not getting it. All countries left the principle of solidarity and went to look for their own interests. Who came? Who came with the vaccine? It was India. India came timely, without any payment, we get the vaccines. And that was an expression not only of solidarity, it was an expression of love, that we are dedicated. We are not only responsible for the Indian people here, but we are responsible for the entire world. We are responsible also for Suriname and that Caribbean region. So I think with the South Summit, again, we'll see new ideas based on connectivity, to create direct flights examples, to create new market, economic market, to create new opportunities for the business community. I think with this summit, which I'll address also, we'll enter a new era as expressed by Prime Minister Modi, the Amrit Kal, which will be expressed also in the South-South cooperation.
So one of the areas where India is taking leadership is the issue of climate change. Your country has been impacted by climate change, and India has come out with initiatives like the International Solar Alliance. What's your view on the issue and India's focus when it comes to the climate change issue?
Well, I went to several companies during my visit over here, and I went to the private company, Reliance. And that's an example what the world needs, to have a company over there, also producing the fossil energy, but also transiting towards green energy, also creating a very environment-friendly surroundings, but also looking at the human factor, the green energy. So I think there is an example in a company, but on the other side we see in all parts of India that there the movement is going on in transiting India towards the green economy. Our country, Suriname, is one of the 3 countries which in carbon negative status. We'll keep that. And I invited India on public sector level, but also on the private sector level, to come to Suriname, to have more investment in the solar energy project, to have more investment in the hydrogen, and to have investment in other type of renewable energies. And I think India is on a good track, on a good path, in a good direction, and that with the close cooperation with India, we'll also benefit of this modern technology what India is utilizing here in my country, and with that we can strengthen our status and position as a carbon negative country and contributing to the world as an oxygen provider for the entire world.
So my last question to you is Organization of Islamic Cooperation is the grouping which you are part of, but that grouping is seen not very positive about India because of one country. Any comments? How do you see this grouping as?
I think with the leadership of India, India will manage to convince everyone that you have to follow the path of peace, as expressed before, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. We are one family on one planet. We are interconnected. And what we need to do, act like a good human being, manubhavar, and with that, to leave something good behind, a legacy where everyone should play their role with love, with peace, and not with aggression, or not with violence. So my message is quite clear. Let us do everything to promote a peaceful society in the world with respect for each other.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for speaking to WION. It was pleasure having you and converse on various issues, whether it's the relationship, bilateral aspect, or global issues like Russia, Ukraine conflict, or climate change. Thank you so much, sir.
It was a pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.